You know, your body is talking to you constantly. Every little ache, every strange number on a lab report, that feeling of being totally drained or completely energized, it's all a language. But the real question is, are we listening? Can we actually understand what it's trying to tell us before it has to start shouting?
So let me introduce you to Kazuo Michihiro. Now, he wasn't a doctor or some big-shot scientist. He was just a guy who, for over a decade, decided to use his regular blood donations as his own personal health dashboard, meticulously tracking every piece of data he could get his hands on.
And for years, it was all pretty routine. He was learning the rhythms of his own system, watching the trends. But then, in August of 2012, the numbers, which had always been just a quiet hum in the background, suddenly started screaming.
And this was the number that set off all the alarms, an ALT of 138. Okay, so what does that even mean? Well, ALT is an enzyme, and high levels are a huge red flag for liver problems. To give you some context, his normal was hovering around 40. A reading of 138 isn't just a little high, that's the kind of number that signals serious liver cell damage, the kind of number that should have him feeling incredibly sick.
And yet, here's the crazy part. He felt fine. Totally normal. No symptoms, nothing. And that right there, that's the mystery we're going to unpack in this explainer. This massive, and frankly, pretty scary gap between what the data was screaming and what his body was actually feeling.
So let's dive right in. We're starting with that shocking number, the single data point that would go on to change absolutely everything about how he saw his own body. You see, this wasn't just some one-off health scare. It was the catalyst for a much longer journey. That crisis in 2012, it forced him to completely change his whole philosophy, to shift from training his body to operating it. And we'll get into what that means. And this journey just kept yielding new insights, even years later, like an issue with back pain that taught him something brand new. I mean, this chart tells the whole story in a single snapshot. You can see his baseline, steady around 40. Then that dramatic, dangerous spike way up to 138. And then look at where he is today. His levels aren't just back to normal, they are way better than they were before. He didn't just survive the crisis, he learned from it and built a much more resilient system because of it. And this is so important. When he was staring at that terrifying number, his first instinct wasn't to ask the typical questions, what should I stop doing? Should I stop drinking? Should I stop working so hard? Nope. He asked a much deeper, much more powerful question. How do I change the fundamental way I use my body?
And that question leads us directly to the core idea of this whole story, this massive shift in perspective from training the body to operating it. It's a whole new philosophy. So let's break it down. The training mindset is probably pretty familiar, right? It's all about pushing your limits, going harder, getting stronger, and a lot of times just ignoring the signals your body is sending you. The operating mindset, though, is different. It treats your body like a complex machine. The focus is on efficiency, on managing your limits, and on actually listening to the signals for sustainable long-term use. This quote just nails it. It perfectly captures this new philosophy. The body isn't weak to overuse. It's weak to sloppy use. Let that sink in for a second. The problem wasn't that he was doing too much. It was how he was doing it. It was about the quality and the rhythm of the stress, not just the sheer amount.
This led him to realize there are basically two different kinds of physical load. On one hand, you have frequent load. This is like short, intense bursts of stress with no real time to recover in between. It keeps your nervous system constantly on edge, and over time, it just leads to breakdown. But then you have sustained load. This is a long-duration, lower-intensity effort that actually lets your body find a rhythm, reset, and shift into a state that promotes healing.
So what was his prescription for a liver that was basically screaming for a break? Well, it was something that sounds completely insane. He went for a 100-kilometer walk. This was the ultimate act of sustained load. It was so extreme that it basically forced his body's systems to reset. His nervous system calmed down, blood flow improved, and paradoxically, this massive physical effort is what actually gave his liver the space it needed to heal. So he learned how to read the data from his liver, but this new mindset also totally changes how we should interpret a much more common signal that we all get: pain. The key is to stop thinking of pain as some kind of failure, or as a sign that you're broken. It's not. It's just a warning light on your dashboard. It's your body's operating system giving you direct, honest feedback. It's saying, hey,
The way you're using me right now is out of sync with my current capacity. That's it.
Okay, check out this case study. After a period of that choppy, frequent load from a lot of travel and just a weird schedule, his back started to hurt. Now, the old mindset would say, time to rest, don't move. But the operator mindset says the system is just out of sync. So the solution wasn't total rest, it was giving his body the right kind of movement, a 90-minute hike on uneven ground. That corrective stimulus forced his body to resynchronize its systems, and just like that, the pain went away.
And this principle of understanding signals and resyncing your system applies to other data points too. So let's talk about one that gives a lot of people anxiety: cholesterol.
We've all been taught to fear high cholesterol, right? But is it always the bad guy? Is it always the villain in our health story? Well, Michihiro's data suggests the answer is a lot more complicated. This is absolutely fascinating. Look at his total cholesterol number. It was high during the 2012 crisis, and guess what? It's still high today. So what's the difference? Context. It's all about the context. Back in 2012, that high number existed in a system with a failing liver and high inflammation. Today, that exact same number exists within a stable, healthy system. The number is the same, but its meaning is completely different.
And this brings us to such a crucial lesson. A single data point isn't a judgment. It's not good or bad on its own. It's just a single word. And to really understand what's going on with your health, you have to learn how to read the entire sentence that word belongs to.
Okay, so if we're learning to read the signals, the last piece of the puzzle is figuring out what to do next. And this brings us to what might be the most empowering idea of all, that recovery isn't just a passive thing, it's a skill you can actually learn.
Most of us think recovery just means stopping what you're doing and lying on the couch. But true recovery, the kind that makes you more resilient in the long run, is an active process. It's a set of techniques that you can consciously and deliberately use to help your body reset and repair itself.
And here they are. These are the pillars of that skill. It's an actual process. First, you have to actively restore blood flow to get nutrients where they need to go. Second, you have to intentionally calm your nervous system to get it out of that fight-or-flight mode. Third, control inflammation so your body can do its repair work. And finally, you just have to allow the time needed for these biological processes to run their course. It's a practical, actionable checklist. So we'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. What if the real goal isn't to create some perfect, failure-proof body that never sends you a warning signal? What if true health is really about building confidence in your system, knowing that when those warning lights do come on, you have the wisdom to listen, the skill to respond, and you've truly mastered the art of the comeback?